What's up? What's up? How we doing, y'all? How's that racing? Damn, this guy's okay. This guy's optimistic. So there's a giant dichotomy in the Ferrari market. It's very kind of curious. There's guys. What's up, TRS? Portland next weekend. It's Rose. Is it Rose City already? Rose Cup? Something? Race? Portland? Words? Thoughts? Good afternoon, Mr. Doug Hansen. How are we? Cheers. Second in the point standing. Good for you, Jack. That's fantastic. We're going to talk about some new parts this fine evening. We are going to, if my buddy Pat makes an appearance, and we'll talk a little bit about his experience in the new GT3 RS and how we can make your car just like it. Talked about this last week a little bit. We'll continue to keep telling you all emphatically about it as we go. We've got, thank you for getting some shots of those, brother. We'll just dive right in with the new parts. Get everybody moving and grooving that direction. So we've got a slew of them. New suspension parts is generally where we're starting. This is 991 inner control arms. So the inner control arm, discuss this a little bit. We got props here. I will grab some of them here. And here, you guys can, so this is an outer control arm. Pull my mic a little bit closer. You guys can hear me. Outer control arm, inner control arm goes to outer control arm. Porsche does not typically give you sufficient thread length, nor distance to push the lower control arm out far enough to get lots of camber. For those of you unfamiliar, this is the shim that you use to increase the length of the lower control arm. And by increasing the length of the lower control arm, you increase track width, which is a benefit for the front of the car. It's going to have more traction for turning, wider track width. Isn't quite the same as wider tires, but it's in the same vein. And it's more complicated than that. We'll just leave that alone for now. The stock lower control arm, you run out of ability to put shims at about, I think Charles said like 20, not even 22 millimeters, somewhere in there. Ours, you could stack almost an inch. Actually more than that, almost 30 millimeters without having issues. More than that, shit. Yeah. Anyway, a lot. And you can get, because this is already plus 15 millimeters. So this is this shim already in the lower control arm, and then we can add more to it. So this would be what a 991.2 GT3 RS comes with stock. It comes with one of these big shims in there, and it looks more like this. This is a plus 3 millimeter. This is for those guys that aren't looking for a lot of camber, but still looking for longer thread engagement, so that when you put it together and you put your bolts in here. Oh, we are missing one piece, brother. The tension arm. Yeah. We got one more piece to share with you, but Justin will go grab that. So these are new, and we have, these are 991, 981, 718 parts. We have the 992 parts finishing up in the machine shop for the lower control arms, and they'll do the same thing in that regard. So we'll be able to push the lower control arm out. It is double wishbone, but by pushing the lower control arm out, you gain negative camber. So you're going to push the wheel towards the car, or as sitting towards the car. There we go. We also have another part. You can kind of make out, because it's double wishbone, we can shorten the connection between the upper control arm and the knuckle and achieve the same thing. So we can actually pull the top of the tire in towards the car. That's in towards me, car's over here. So in towards the car, right? And this is a very simple way to do that. This allows you to potentially gain some clearance for larger wheels. This is a 992 GT3, 992 GT3 RS exclusive part. These will be up on the website probably next week. Ted was working on them today. Continuing to find all of the ways that we can help separate you from your dollars. No. Well, yes, but that isn't the only reason. We're wanting to... There we go.
Mr. Pat's announced.
Oh, Pat's here?
Yep.
Right on. And my buddy Pat's here. So this is a tension arm. What's up, brother? On the other side. Yeah. This is a tension arm, otherwise known as an RSR tension arm. And what makes this part different for us, unlike most, and welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Jane.
We actually made it so you can put the front brake duct on it. Everybody else that makes one of these parts just expects you on a round part to use zip ties to put a square brake duct on it, and somehow it knows to orient itself correct way in the wind. Crazy. We actually spent a lot of time trying to make this just right. You can kind of make out in the light some of the indents. You can see them.
Very cool.
Little indents. I'll show it over there.
That's great. I haven't seen that.
So that's going to be available. That's a 991.1.2, 981, 718. I think also 997, maybe.
Look at
got
this. Service with a smile.
Service with a smile, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah,
So, for those of you who don't know, this is my buddy Pat. He is one of the co-founders of Dundon Motorsports. This is going back 9 years ago.
Yeah, what year did we start?
It was 2016.
Okay, that's what I thought. January, right? 'Cause it was
January,
like
yeah.
we were talking fall
Yeah,
of 15.
like 15, and then we finally pulled the trigger,
Yeah.
got the papers in, January of 16. So,
Yeah, I remember.
this is, we're drinking more of the Old Bones Rye. This is from McCallum and Sons.
Oh, really?
Yep. So Glenn, I struck an arrangement with him. I say, I have this much money to spend. Pick me some whiskeys and let me know when you can bring them by. And so he does. This is one of those.
Very nice.
He got me one that I have at home that when you come over next week, it's, what is it? Carrollton Brothers? Something like that. It's the distillery in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
It's one with the
I've seen
star
it.
on it, right?
Exactly.
It's 140 proof, Pat.
Is it Everclear whiskey?
It's crazy. It's
140.
140 proof. It's 70% fucking alcohol.
I've seen some high test.
This
spirits, but
this is crazy.
yeah, that's up there.
And it just tastes like candy.
Really?
It's so sweet.
What could possibly
Cheers,
be
brother.
dangerous about that?
Fucking A, right? I forced myself to pour like half a finger, not nowhere near, and it's, yeah.
Have you ever had Screwball?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've tasted it once. It's just talking about sweet.
Yeah, it's not- it's not candy sweet.
Entirely different, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah.
made me, yeah.
Yeah, like the peanut butter whiskey,
peanut butter whiskey,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So
well, I'm excited to try this.
one of the other things we did,
Hey, look what's up there.
yeah, Mr. Jack Curtis.
That was the original. No, just for
That
the
was the
record.
original lab rat.
For the record,
Yeah.
I told Jamie I was going to come up with a license plate for that car that said Lab Rat.
And I totally stole
And he
it.
goes, "That's a terrible idea. Lab Rat, they think we're just tearing it apart and this and that."
Yeah.
And so I didn't do it.
and then it's stuck.
And then the next thing I know, he's calling his car the Lab Rat. So
That's kind of the only thing that made sense after that.
I really was. It's a perfect name. I actually thought about getting a hat that says OG Lab Rat.
Yeah, you should. You should, honestly, because it is. We struggled with what
Thanks,
we
Justin, for
might
pulling that up.
want to call them. And I mean, we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out, the Dundon full build or the Dundon stage, blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And nothing really stuck.
You know, the other thing for this car that I got to put on the record, this is really fun. I get to put things on the record.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's called a Cayman, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, we were going to build this thing into a 4.5 liter, which had some curves in the road.
Still up there on the
Still up
shelf.
there, I know which.
Yep.
But I thought, this is so Seattle has a hockey team named the Kraken.
Yep.
For people that don't know, if they're not following hockey. This was before that, and I said, I'm going to name this the Kraken, and the license plate was available. I could have gotten Kraken, and I almost did.
And then you'd have to go support the hockey team.
No, I mean, think about that. How many people want that license plate now?
Yeah, now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have sold the license plate for thousands.
So anyway,
at that point.
So that was going to be the Kraken, but that is such a great car, and part of why I wanted to stop by is because I knew you were doing this today, and I wanted to talk about another great car.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had
this is really good, by the way.
It's nice, right? We had the 992 GT3 RS. Was it last week? Last Thursday?
Yeah, about a week ago.
Yeah. It was last Thursday at the track. The point of being out there was for Ted and I to continue to try and find warts, things that the car doesn't do well. And I'll say we're sneaking up on some. We're starting to find the soft underbelly of the well-armored dragon. And it's taken some work. That's where some of these parts are coming in, like this one.
Okay.
This is a upper control arm link that allows us to get it more camber without changing track width.
I love what Dundon's become. It is so much broader.
Yeah. We started as an exhaust company, and changing oil. More than that, we had far larger capabilities. We still do, but there's lots of ways to make $1. Some of them you can make $1 while you're sleeping, and some of them require counting every minute of when you're making $1. So
really, for those that haven't read it, the book Good to Great is one of my favorite books, and really what I think Dundon did, and part of the reason that I stepped away a few years ago was because I didn't feel like I had anything more to offer in terms of where it was going, and it decided that really what they could be best at, uniquely gifted at, I think, is what they're doing, is making parts. Go fast parts from soup to nuts.
Trying to just find all the things that it's kind of the same discussion that we had when we first started it, right? There's lots of people making parts for these cars already. Why do we think we're going to be able to be successful? Right? And not to sound like an asshole, but most of the people making parts make janky parts. They're not great. They're not good. They're not well thought out. They're adequate for what it is that they positioned them to be. But they could be really, really fantastic simple things. Like this is a caster puck. We put marks on it and a line on the arm so that you can tell when you're underneath the car trying to adjust it, where it is. Then you can match it up on the other side and not have to just little simple things like that. We call it give a shit. There are lots of other far better management book worthy phrases, but it's
the other thing that Dundon's always done from day one, and we got a lot of flack for it in the early days because people didn't believe, but is data, is facts, it's testing, is not just saying, okay, here it is, but
I think this is going to be better.
Here's the data, and that's why we spend so much time at the track testing.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's before, here's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, going back to where we were going.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to hop in the new RS. I I came out speechless. I mean, Jamie's known me a long time, and like you said, I'm going to move this up. We started this thing together. I've driven a lot of cars, and I'm going with hyperbole here, but it's not hyperbole. I think it's the best car ever made.
I think.
I mean, seriously, that's from a driver's standpoint.
Yes.
I hopped in this car, and it was late in the day. It was the last session of the day. Tires were hot. Car was hot. I was, I've been 4 or 5 sessions already.
You've been coaching and whatnot.
And I went consistent, like within 5 or 6 seconds of each other, lap after lap, at some of the best times I've ever had out there in any car.
Yep.
And this is jumping into a car.
Yeah, it's not his car. Never it's the end of the day.
I'm driving it.
There's your lap.
8/10. Oh, it is incredible. I mean, Porsche absolutely knocked it out of the park with this car.
Yeah.
The fact that we can have something that good out of the box, I cannot wait to see where it goes. I mean, now we're talking about splitting hairs, right? I mean, we're talking about small little changes, but those little changes are going to make the best car ever made for the. I mean, it's a race car. For the street.
Yeah. I mean, when we're at Road Atlanta and we're sitting there with
Justin, I love what you're doing over there. That's so great.
with Lee. And with Lee Keen and with Seth Thomas and with Ted TA4, after they've all driven the car, they're all kind of saying the same thing. They're like, "You throw slicks on this thing. What's up, Boris? How you doing, brother?" It's a cup car. He's like, this car behaves a lot like a heavy cup car.
Well,
right?
but I would push back on that a little bit, because I think that's selling it short, honestly, because I've driven a cup car. And a cup car is a handful. A cup car is scary for people. A cup car is not something. So just to put it in perspective, I jumped in Jamie's cup car and went one of the slowest laps I've ever gone around the track.
Yeah, because it's terrifying.
Also late in the day. Also tires were cooked. All this stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a car that gives you. I mean, again, a good driver, a professional driver, is not going to have the same performance in the RS as the Cup. But a regular driver, an amateur good driver, will be faster in the RS than the Cup.
Do you think it's going to give drivers that shouldn't be going as fast as they are in that car a false sense of how good they are?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
I'll put myself in that camp.
I'm sure it will.
I'm doing 142s and.
But you know what? So is the Corvette Z06.
Yeah. All the modern cars.
All
are
the
that
modern
way.
cars are too fast. Yeah. And I've been a fan, as you know, for years of light.
Yep.
I don't care. It doesn't have to have the most horsepower, but give me something light and stripped.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, that's as fun as anything.
Yeah. The conversation that Ted and I keep having about the new 3RS is relevant to all of this, and that's how good should we make it. It's not a can we, it's a should we at this point. Because there are still some things that will make the car better. Ted has been, we're going to try some things on setup for this, but from apex to track out, the car, he says, the front end is giving up. It wants to push.
And that must be the next level. So
correct.
I find that on a lot of the cars. I have just for those, I have a 991.2 GT3. I have obviously the blue GT4, and those cars do tend to push.
Yeah.
I didn't, as with the speed I was driving, which is pretty quick, faster than I'm doing in my cars.
Sure.
Mine will push. I didn't feel it there, so it must be that. The next level.
The thing that we've talked about when guys call me and they're like, "Hey, my car understeers from track out, from apex to track out." I'm like, "Well, it's because you have your foot in the throttle."
Yeah.
That's a feature, not a bug. The car's supposed to do that. The differential's engaging, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Ted knows that.
Yeah.
Ted's aware of that.
Yep.
He's been patient. He got the car turned, and he's still saying the front end's kind of giving up a little bit. I'm like, that's a lot of front end to be giving up.
Well, and that's, really, this is really to Ted's credit, is that it just, he's a better
that
driver.
Dialed in.
Yeah, he's that dialed in. One, he can feel it.
Yep.
Two, he's
I just
3 or
had
4
a thought
seconds
about
faster.
I just had a thought about why that's happening.
Go ahead.
The wing's engaged. It's an aero imbalance from the front to the rear.
Would it be at that speed?
Yeah, because he's talking about
What is he talking
60,
about?
70, 80 mile an hour corner exits.
You know, it's interesting because the wing
It needs a splitter.
aspect, I'm not paying attention to what's going on behind me. I'm just enjoying this car. Literally just grin from ear to I look like the Joker grin on my face. I just did not want to get out of this car. Truly, I've never been speechless getting out of a car, but this one. I think it's,
And Pat doesn't like the flashy RSs. He's a GT3
I
guy, silver, gray, chalk, not the look at me black and
No,
orange or
true.
bright red or these kinds of things.
I told
So-
Jamie I would sell my house. That's how good it was.
Marley, he's kidding.
Yeah, no, I'm not
selling any
I'm
house.
actually not. I'll sell a house.
I'll sell a house, not my house.
But
yeah.
Man, if you can get your hands on one of those, it's the last of a breed. And now,
I agree.
You know, since we
I
had
agree.
that day,
Yeah.
Porsche rolled out the GTS with all the talk about what the new you saw that.
Yeah. All the hybrid turbo, electric turbo, all this bit.
No more manuals.
Yep.
If they're going to make a GTS with the hybrid, that's going to be lickety split quick.
Yep.
I know they're going to stay NA. They've said no turbos, but I've got to believe the hybrid is coming. I mean, the 919 is proof that a hybrid in the car we're just talking about, the
Right,
RS,
right.
would make it faster.
Sure.
And
Sure. It would
what
give
el-
it that torque that it doesn't have down low and all that bit.
And what else can they do to compete? And so I'm thinking this car, the
Thinking they have
992, I think they have to.
One of the thing that I read in the 992 GTS release that was kind of scary from being a car guy was that they can't do full throttle enrichment anymore. They have to run the engine at stoichiometric 14.7 to 1, be it full throttle or not,
Because of emissions?
because of new European emissions.
Interesting.
And because of that,
This is really good, by the way.
that engine is down 60 horsepower to its predecessor.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to hybridize it so that it would actually have
And that's
extra.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So, I mean, the new car, if it has a hybrid, will
Mm-hmm.
be empirically quicker.
We've been talking about this
We
for
have, I know.
10 years, right?
But
They're
this car here-
killing the NA.
but
They're going to
this
be
car
turbo, blah, blah, blah.
But I think they're going to skip turbo. They're not going turbo.
Well, I don't.
They're going hybrid
GT3
turbo.
won't. Yeah, they'll go hybrid NA.
They'll go
They won't
hybrid
turbo.
NA,
Right.
and
Maybe. Although
I think they
there is
will.
a strong rumor that the 992.2 GT3 is a hybrid. There's a very strong rumor that's been going around for a while.
I don't doubt that.
And
I mean, I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't doubt it.
I would say stronger than a rumor because I've been
Okay.
told by some that said don't say anything
Okay.
a while
You know
ago.
better than I, but
I didn't say who it was, so I don't. I'm
because
just full of shit.
Here's
I don't
the
know.
issue, though, is they kind of have to with the GTS going
Mm-hmm.
that way. The top of the line, short of the GT3, they can't have them that close together.
Yeah, the GT3 would get waxed in a straight line, and that can't happen. We can't have that.
So back to the car
Yes.
of my dreams.
Yes, the 3RS.
is that is the last of. I really do think one way or the other, whether it be the dot one or the dot two,
Yep.
and maybe they make the dot two look like this one. A
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, they'll do something.
But
Giant shark fin or some
after
shit.
This,
Right.
Whatever, it won't be 993. We know who knows what it'll
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
But whatever it is, I think this one here is the last of an era.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Just my prediction.
Well, luckily, I got me one.
I know,
So
and it's so
I just licensed it in Washington today. So
Good.
to share with all of y'all, I've talked about this. Pat is also my insurance agent, and I trust him implicitly with things beyond my comprehension in that regard, both life insurance and a number of other things. Any of y'all who are trying to find a good tax angle on retirement, look him up. Who's rocking your books now? Because I know you had the company that's doing all that. How does that work now?
You know what? Actually, have them ping you and send it to me. That'd be the easiest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hit me up, and then I'll get Pat you involved. It's essentially he wrote some books a while ago called Tax Free Retirement, and to explain it briefly, you don't get taxed on a loan when you take a loan against an asset when you're later in life. If that asset happens to be tied to your life expectancy, and you are overfunding it over time, then it doesn't matter what taxes are doing when you get old.
Right.
And if you overfund it enough and you don't live to 130, then you're good. So, yeah, right? Giving away the secrets. This is not a secret. This is just a really, really great tax strategy that I wish I knew a little younger than I did, but I'm making up for it.
Ping you, send it to me, and I'll talk
Yeah,
to them.
anybody that's interested, hit me, and I'll get it to Pat. Where I was going with that is I was looking for a way to avoid paying 10% sales tax on a $300,000 car. Many will have a good friend of ours just bought a GT2 RS. I'll try not to incriminate him. And he's doing this. He sent me. He's
fully legal. There's nothing wrong with it.
correct. You can hold a vehicle in an LLC, and you can if that LLC is, let's say, in Montana, and Montana has advantageous sales tax laws when it comes to cars. People do it for planes. They do it for boats. They do it for motorhomes, et cetera, et cetera. And Montana's fine with it. The problem you run into is the state you're in may not be fine with it. And if they find you, they might really have a problem with it.
You know, and I don't know that there's like any huge penalty. It's just that it would reverse everything you spent money and time trying to do. So it's kind of
Add complexity to your life.
kind of not worth the hassle.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's where I got to, you know, where I pinged him and I was like, so will my insurance work if this is under a Montana LLC? And the immediate response was, yes, in the past, this hasn't been a problem. And then Pat, doing his due diligence, as he's fantastic at, he wrote me the very next day. He's like, hold that.
I made some calls.
Not so much.
Well, I think it may have changed. That I
Right.
think maybe actually even Montana might have
Oh,
changed.
really?
So
Okay.
what they said is that the state, because Washington doesn't do this, some states, like in Georgia, because I used to work there a bit, they will send insurance and DMV are tied together. And so if you don't have insurance on a car that's licensed in Georgia,
Yep.
your insurance, the DMV finds out and you get all sorts of trouble.
Sure.
Because the insurance company couldn't verify it. And what they said is that the states will talk with, you know, Washington doesn't, but maybe Montana does now. I don't know. But
Gotcha.
they just said
Yeah.
that they have had issues where people, if it's not insured in that state, the state will say, well, you have a car license here, but it's not insured here. So what are we doing?
Right.
And
Right.
that was the problem.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't need complexity.
No.
Yeah, this is not financial advice. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, you want one of these?
This is absolutely true.
Yes, we are not offering financial in legal
We are not.
or any other advice, even
we-
marital advice.
you know-
You probably don't want that from us either, but maybe him, not me.
You may never invite me back on this. This is so much fun.
It is fun.
And we need to do this more. But can we go completely sideways for a minute?
Yeah, what's up?
Have you watched any of the GameStop stuff going on?
Yeah.
It's comical.
It is comical.
I mean, it's comical,
I've been trying to help my nephew. He was at the house this past weekend, last weekend. Yeah, this past weekend. This was a long week. This past weekend. And he came over on Sunday. He's a business major at SDSU. I was like, all right, Connie, so talk to me about what the stock market is. You're a freshman in business. You need to know what the stock market is. He's like, okay, let me help you. So we went through what the stock market is, trading shares of ownership of companies, yada, yada, yada. There's a price even of the shares external to what their asset value of the company might be, that people will speculate on what they might be worth at some point in the future. And that's what drives share prices. Loosely. It's much more complicated than that, but loosely, it's where we got to. And he's like, so what happened with GameStop? And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, that's a much different conversation that we have to explain what shorting a stock is and what an institutional buyer is and what a short squeeze is and all this other crap.
But you see what it did in the last 24 hours?
I saw something briefly.
Okay, so
did it tank $8 or did it go up?
No, okay. I'm just gonna give. This is just for kicks and giggles here.
And please tell me you have some.
No, of course I don't have any. No, are you kidding me? It's a worthless piece of crap. For the record, it's worth 0. But Roaring Kitty or
Yeah, whatever.
V.
Kitty, right?
Anyway, so about I don't know, a month ago, he hadn't been live. He's the one. If you
Yeah.
saw the movie Dumb Money, it's about
Yes.
this guy, and fun movie, by the way. But he puts this post out, first time in 3 years, where he's sitting forward in a chair
Yep.
with a game controller.
Right.
And people think, oh, he's back.
Right.
So GameStop, which had been as high as like 120 pre or post split value, which was ridiculous, was down to about 10, which is already way overvalued.
Yeah. It should be like $1.
He puts this post out and it starts to creep up. It hits like $70 a share. Okay.
So it's gone up 7x.
Well, then it came crashing back down until, this is going to blow your mind, until about a week ago, 4 or 5 days ago,
Right.
he posted his holdings.
I saw that.
online.
Yeah, where he had
$289 million
Yeah.
worth of
and
GameStop.
options totaling. Yeah, the options.
He had 120,000 options, which is just 12 million shares.
Right.
He had 5 million shares, so he's controlling 17 million shares.
Right.
Here's the thing that I got to bring it up because I've never watched a live YouTube stream until this morning of his, and I actually hung up after 5 minutes because it
Right.
was like
Right.
But yesterday, so every dollar the stock moves up, he's making $17 million.
Right.
His strike price on his options are at 20.
Okay.
Yesterday, after the market, it was $65 a share, and I'm texting a buddy like,
What
Please.
the hell?
he was just shy of a billionaire yesterday. Today, post market, when I came in, $27 a share. He lost $610 million, and it's like he could have sold and set the record for the greatest 3-day trade in the history of the world.
Right.
And he did this little clown show this morning that I think it was just to try and show that he's actually not that smart. Obviously he is, but
Yeah.
he's trying to show he's not.
Yeah,
so he doesn't
yeah.
get
So he
sued by the
doesn't-
SEC and go to jail.
Right. Because had he done that,
But
the
had he-
SEC's like market manipulation.
Exactly.
100%.
So here's the problem: is they say now it's not a problem buying it and holding it and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because he has affected the stock price so much, he's got to tell people he's going to sell before he sells, or he's going to get in trouble. This is what they're saying. I'm not what I'm saying. But
I mean,
literally, this guy went from $50,000 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He had $250 million 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday, 24 hours ago, let's say.
Yeah.
He was worth $900 million, and today it's back to $280 or $300 million. It's insanity.
Yes. 100%. So this is interesting. I've been telling these guys there's a relatively new financial product on the market that has kind of changed my outlook on what generating income from income generating stocks actually are capable of doing for you. And they're called covered call ETFs. And a covered call ETF, this is a strategy that you can employ if you own shares of a stock. A covered call is a short
Call.
name for a call option, which essentially is a contract you write, and you can, like, if I had some number of shares or I had a house and Pat says, hey, I would like to buy your house in a week for a month from now for this fixed price, and I'm going to give you $100 for the option to exercise that contract when that time expires, or for this amount of money. In essence, that's what's happening for shares of stocks, and those contracts can be traded among other people and will take on some value of their own outside of their intrinsic value associated with shares. So, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There you go. Write this down. What a covered call ETF does is they do that for you. And they'll do it against, let's say, the NASDAQ 100, or they'll do it against the S&P 500. They're expensive because they're a managed ETF. They're kind of like a managed mutual fund. There can be horrendous tax consequences associated with them depending on how they're managed, because in essence, every single thing they do could be considered a short-term gain, which would then be
Well, they're all
taxed.
short-term games. It's usually weekly or monthly. Yeah.
So there are some that They're QQQ.
They go out years.
They go out years.
Okay.
So they're actually
So parts of it could be
75% are long term.
Oh, really?
25% short term.
Okay.
And right now they're throwing off 18%.
Interesting.
And I was like, what? I can get how much?
Yeah, but they're also going out 18% because the market, if they're selling calls, the calls are very expensive right now because the market's going up. If we fall into a bear market, they won't be able, I mean, I'm all about selling covered calls.
Yeah.
I
It's
like
a great strategy.
It's a great strategy.
Because
but,
it takes advantage of greed.
But I'm not a fan of long-term covered calls
Sure.
because all of the premium is in the weekly premium.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So I don't have the time to do that, nor do I have enough. I would have to do it on margin, and that's incredibly freaking risky. That's super risky. That's where those short squeezes and the like come from on things like GameStop, where people are on margin, meaning they borrowed somebody else's money to then trade it, and they owe that guy, and they have to make decisions very quickly when they get called to pay it back, blah, blah, blah. Who knew this was going to be a financial show
I know,
at some
it's
point,
great.
right?
It's so,
right?
I steered you just completely off the cliff.
Exactly.
Hope you don't mind, but we're having
it's
fun.
good. It's good. And this is
Maybe we
for
should
these guys.
combine.
They're like, what?
Instead of cars and coffee, we'll cars and finance.
Cars and finance, cars and bad financial advice. Because buying a $300,000 car is not typically a good financial.
Not
move,
great financial advice.
generally speaking.
But I'll tell you what, that car's worth it.
You heard it here first, folks.
It is. It's the only car. I had a Speedster.
Yeah.
I had a 911 Speedster.
Yep.
That car wasn't worth it.
No,
It's a fine car. This
I had
car,
a 458. Not worth it.
This car is the only car I've ever driven that's worth what they're charging.
I
Porsche
would
can
say
send me a check.
what MSRP is charging.
Honestly,
$500,000 for that car. I'm not
yeah.
sure.
I mean, obviously,
if the market would stay there and never collapse,
it's
sure.
ridiculous money. If we knew, like you said, if you knew it was going to stay there and you weren't going to lose out on the premium that people are
Right.
charging,
Right.
It's worth that.
Yeah.
But it's not worth it if you're going to lose 150 grand. Now, it might be. It's that good.
If you're
that
going to
good.
keep it forever,
It's
then,
that good.
then you're good.
No,
So-
but it's obviously a ridiculously expensive car, but it is yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about this. So for those of you who don't know, Daw Underdog is Justin's civilian alter ego when he's trying to prod us in the chat.
I like it, Justin. Way to go, man.
But we honestly think the 911, the 992.2 GT3 will likely be PDK hybrid. Yes, it'll have an e-motor in between the PDK and the 4-liter naturally aspirated. No, they won't build a 4.2. They did that.
They're not going to. I would say it should be.
Yeah.
And that's a weird statement for me because I'm a pure NA guy, but it should be
Mm-hmm.
because the battery, the hybrid portion, I am not a turbo fan because I don't like turbo leg.
Yep.
And I don't like the lower RPMs. I'm a GT guy.
Yeah.
But to do that in a GT motor, I mean, you're getting really the best of both worlds.
Sure.
So, and Porsche knows that.
Absolutely.
why they did
Especially
it.
if they can keep it light.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, I
and-
mean, a small little battery, it's not going to be crazy.
Yeah. And it'll probably be a 48 volt system, which will help with a whole bunch of other shit inside the car, which would be great.
And it'll
Kinda
keep it
like
from
my
having
RS6.
to go, partially electric.
It'll also, they'll probably have a regen feature on D-Cell. I didn't know this when I bought the RS6, but it's considered a hybrid.
It is?
Yeah.
It has a regen on braking in?
Yep.
Interesting.
And it'll,
Does it have any of those gadgets that shows you power going to the battery and all
yep,
that?
it has a
the screen that shows
the consumption
yeah.
meter, and then it gets to green as you're kind of coasting downhill.
Interesting.
So it'll engage that. And in essence, all it's doing is turning off the alternator.
okay.
It disengages the clutch on the alternator because it's regenning either off the brakes or off of.
So does it have some battery power? Obviously, that's
yeah,
giving
it's
you-
a 48 volt battery system
It
in there.
is.
There's 2 big batteries in
I
that
did
car.
not- okay.
So it does. I don't think it helps with thrust at all. It's mainly just recouping and trying
For gas mileage?
For gas mileage, yeah. But I mean, the car will
with
get
that motor, you kind of need it.
it'll get 26 miles a gallon going
does
back
not.
to it does. It does. If I hypermill it going back and forth and I just
Really?
let it'll kill 4 cylinders, it's great.
Interesting.
So it's not 4-liter twin turbo crazy super gas guzzler the whole time.
That's really
But
interesting. I didn't know.
when you put your foot down, it sure is.
So I have a Spider, the
Yeah.
718 Spider that I actually drove here today that can turn off half the cylinders.
Yep.
Never done it.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my
I
God, the engine sounds so horrible when it
immediately
does that.
Turn off so it
Yeah,
doesn't
click,
do
click,
it
stop.
because it just seems to me wrong.
yeah. I didn't buy a 3-cylinder.
In that car, good, but 3-cylinder shouldn't even be a thing unless you're a Triumph motorcycle.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Or a K truck. You saw the orange one
Yeah,
outside,
is it
right?
3-cylinders?
Yeah,
No way.
3-cylinder, 660 cc.
That's
There's
awesome.
a gerbil actually in there. We have
Yes,
to feed
there
him
is.
once in a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the K truck was fun. Let's talk a little bit
Yeah.
about.
I've derailed this completely, but
Oh, you're
it's been
good. This
super
is
fun.
good. This is good.
Yeah,
this is good.
really fun.
Can you bring up a picture of the 991.1 GT3? Because that caught a lot of people's attention on the Instagrams. So
Which I still subscribe. The first time I drove that car was at ORP.
yep,
I jumped in your 991.1,
yeah,
and I think it had the sofas in it, right?
yeah. Because 14, you couldn't get buckets.
Right.
They
And
didn't have
so
them.
I remember just cooking around that track in that car and getting out and going, no car should be this good and this comfortable and this easy to drive at the same time.
I mean, especially Pat and I both came from 997s, 996s. You know that.
997 is still my favorite gen, just saying.
Absolutely, mine too. That's why it's still here. And one of these days I'll get to drive it again.
Yeah,
'cause
maybe.
Maybe. It's the running joke between my buddy Raza and myself, and Pat and myself, that car will never actually be driven again.
It
It'll just
absolutely will.
sit underneath something and never get driven again. But
Absolutely will.
as soon as we can move some shit like the 997.2 GT3 RS that's here that we're putting a clutch in, that we finally got the fucking car to cooperate. Cheers, brother. Thank you. As far as liking the tune and whatnot, it was just being super bitchy, and we couldn't quite figure out why. Charles, I just gave him the bandwidth to try, and of course that took, as most things that are good and worthy do take longer to do than you might hope they would, but it's getting done.
What are your plans with this car?
So
Because that is a good looking car to start with, and it's a great car platform to use.
we bought a 51,000 mile 2015 GT3 on its original engine. It's not a G6. So
How long do you have to break it?
Right. Well, that was the point. So
I'm just kidding.
we get asked, because Pat was still here when we were working on and spending money on the solution set for this car.
Oh, yeah.
And we spent a lot of time and a lot of money to try and figure that out, and we figured it out. And then Porsche swooped in and did a 10-year engine warranty, and now we're on the other side of that, which tells you how long we've been around.
Yep.
And now all the owners of those cars are freaking out.
Yep.
What do I do? Because crazy, now they believe us.
Right. I mean, when you've got a free motor waiting in the wings, why are you going to believe someone that's going to charge you money, you know?
When Chicken Little says the sky is falling and you don't actually see it falling, you don't really give a shit what they're saying, right? Now you don't know, and you don't have a safety net, so now what?
Honestly,
right?
this might be one of the best projects you're working on right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to have the most merit.
Yeah.
It's going to so what we're doing on the engine is, those are both the same car, which is great. Zoom in on those. I think Pat's seen Doug's car. Yeah, you saw Doug's car at the track.
I did. I thought, is that the same car?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's a 991.1 GT3.
Yeah.
That's Paul Blake's old
Okay.
his 616 GT3? I forget, 15, 16, something like
Yep.
that. It's got a
Well, I think
991.2 cup front bumper on it. That's why it looks a bit like a mutt.
Yeah, it looks good.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, it's so good.
The first point is going to be to show people how to keep that engine going. And the strategy is relatively simple. It's inspect it and replace the things that are worn. If you find that your camshafts are worn, then that changes. Because when the camshafts are worn, that means there's metal circulating in the engine, and a deeper look may be necessary to see what's going on. If you catch it before that happens, then All you have to do is change the finger followers. And what's crazy is, you probably remember this, Charles talked to somebody really, really early on.
Yep.
And he told them that exact thing.
Yep, I
And the
remember that.
guy changed his finger followers in total
Yep.
4 times. All of them 4 times. And I think the car's got like 70,000 miles on it or something like that.
You know, it's a great platform. I mean, the thing about it is you can find those for, I mean, really, really great prices out there right now.
And they're going to get cheaper.
And yeah.
The
And-
one outside was 110, and that's when everybody wanted 135
Okay.
for them still. And I was like,
I mean,
y'all are
around $100,000 for that car and the performance. If
For
you
sure.
have so, I mean, for those that are, listen, what kind of expense are we talking like to change finger followers?
So finger followers is going to be an engine drop.
Yep.
So for Jacob, for Spec German to do this, he's going to be involved. We're going to kind of do it together because we're not doing it.
Right.
We're going to enable. We might build
You're building
tools,
cool stuff like this.
Yeah, we want to build cool stuff like this, and I don't want to get phone calls or 50 phone calls trying to schedule all that. That's Jacob picked his poison, and I will
he did.
happily enable him in that regard.
And by the way, great place to take your car.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jacob is our number one place to. Local guys all know about Jacob, and I am very happy to see him successful.
Yeah, me too.
Very happy to see him successful. So total hours. Let's see, to R&R an engine, remove and replace a 991.1 engine. We'll just say that that's 5 hours. So take it out, put it back in. Inspection of each side and replace the cam followers, probably a couple hours. So you're looking at 7 hours of labor, maybe 7 hours of labor. Say your average
$200,
$200,
yeah.
something like that.
Right.
You know, so $1,500 with tax.
Yep.
To have that done.
Yeah.
How often you have to have it done will depend on how you drive the car.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't there some on the early cars that the cars that were on track and getting run hard, maybe because they were changing their oil more often, were actually doing better, or is that not true? No.
what we ended up seeing is
Wasn't that the message that was out early though?
that's what was out early, and
Yeah.
it wasn't
true.
It wasn't correct. So what's happening is as the engine spins higher and higher in the RPM, the frictional wear on a thing goes up by the square of the speed in which it is rubbing. So if you shift your car in manual mode and you pull the paddles around, say 8,000 or 8,200 versus somebody who left it in automatic
That goes
mode
all the way to
and let
9K.
it take it all the way to 9,000, the guys who are in automatic and all the way to 9,000 are going to see wear substantially earlier than the guys who shift manually to 82.
Right. Exponential.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why the 991.1 GT3 RS, which, sorry to break it to you fellas, you have the same engine as the cars that we're talking about.
Why did they say that didn't have the issue? I heard them say that.
Because they moved the red line down to 8,400.
Yeah. Was it 84?
84 in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth
Okay.
gear.
I
9,000 in
think-
first and second.
Okay.
And there still have been cars that have failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because more DLC doesn't mean that you maintained an oil film in between things that should be rubbing next to each other. So that's one of the first things we're going to do. The corollary to that, for those guys that are like, shit, my cams are worn, I've got, bearing clearance issues, my oil pressure isn't great, I've got, high leak down and low compression and these kinds of things. Well then, a 991.2 GT3 engine used on the market currently is about $30,000. For us to rebuild your 991.1 3.8 liter GT3 into a 4 liter with solid lifters would probably be about $70,000, maybe $80,000 for parts and building it. And the parts are low volume and the parts come without any warranty.
It's a no-brainer.
100%.
Yeah, no-brainer.
Because there are folks who are building these parts currently, and I have, as much as I could push, that's a fool's errand. You probably shouldn't be putting R&D money into that because they made plenty of .2 GT3 engines, and they're cheap.
Yep.
And
I mean,
even
that motor is a fantastic motor.
it's great.
just
I mean, he's got
incredible.
one in his .2 GT3. It's a great engine.
Great motor. The sound on that motor is incredible.
Yeah. So that's the second part of what's going to happen with that car.
you're
is
gonna do that?
We're going to put a 991.2
Oh, I love
GT3
that.
engine in that.
That's incredible.
We've got a deck lid that we are building now to enable our full aero package to exist on that car. So we can have a full splitter. We can actually make a lab rat that we never really got to do because my 991.1 GT3, which I love, sapphire blue, we turned it into a cup, kind of a street cup,
That's
with,
right. I forgot
with the
about that,
wing
yeah.
and the whole thing. Yeah, you know me. I can't leave
I know,
anything
I know.
alone. Those were the parts that were available at the
paint
time.
shop for you. Right?
I remember. Well, Pat, who should I get to paint this? This guy.
Here, I'll take care of it for you. Just give it to me.
But now we can actually do it the way we want to do it. So Jack's got a question. Will the new 991.1 lab rat be getting development for a D4 package versus a D3, meaning intake runners plus a pre-throttle body filter intake system? So we've been saying yes for about 2.5 years that is going to happen, and that's why we have a Cup car, and that's why the Cup car runs on a standalone Bosch system. And yes, we want to do that. I also want Pumpkin to exist. I also want Cup Club Sport to exist, and we keep doing stuff like this that pays the bills. So yes, but we have to. I'm learning in my sage old experience doing this. To temper my enthusiasm
No, you're not.
and not sell things before they're done.
Well, that's true. You've always been good at that. But
No, I've been bad at that. I sell
well,
shit before it's done
I
a
don't know.
lot.
No.
Just ask Charles.
Yeah. Best customer service person in the business right here.
And I appreciate
It's really
that.
true.
Thank you.
You guys have no idea the amount of hours, like crazy hours, that he has put in taking care of all of you that have bought their parts. It's amazing.
Thank you, Pat.
So,
Thank you, Pat. I've Ted has been a great help.
Oh, Ted's been great.
Ted is a competitor, and often his competitive juices will temper his enthusiasm when the battle must be lost to win the war. And these are conversations and growth things that he and I continue to work on.
Sure.
When
It's a hard thing.
when we got to lose this battle so that we can keep
Yep.
the war,
Yep.
right? And keep things moving on the war. And that's hard.
Isn't that kind of like a marriage?
100%, brother. Every day.
Every
Day. Maybe we are giving marital advice.
Yeah, we
Who
are.
knew?
Just lose some battles because you want to win the war.
100%. And winning the war means staying together, not really winning anything.
Yes.
But thank you, Ed.
Yeah,
That's very
good to see you,
kind.
Ed.
We've got a lot of plans for what happens with Pumpkin's kind of foundational strategies.
I mean, really what you're doing, what I see is there's a consistency across all of this. And that is the 991.2 motor.
Mm-hmm.
Putting it in the 991.1, putting it in the Pumpkin. It's already in the Pumpkin,
It's
right?
already in the Pumpkin.
Yeah. May have to go into GT4 at some point.
Yep.
I mean, it is the best bang for the performance buck right now because
Yeah.
you can't rebuild a motor for the cost.
You can.
No,
but
I said no.
For the cost of a used one.
Comma. Actually,
Yeah.
they tell my wife, honey, that was a comma, not a period.
Exactly. I'm continuing. That was but a pause.
You can't rebuild a motor, comma, for the price that you
Right.
can get that motor, and it's a great motor.
The nice thing is Porsche kind of continued that architecture in the 992 GT3,
Right.
in the 992 GT3 RS. It's a slightly different ECU,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure the mechanical components don't know if we run it with a 991.2 ECU on.
But when you
what
do
we
the math
figured
on
out.
that, I mean, for people looking for a track car, so you get that, say, for around 100, 110.
Yep.
Drive it till it dies.
Yep.
Put a .2 motor in it. I mean, the .2s right now, I follow it pretty closely, is around 200 grand.
Yep.
Buy the car for 100, get 30, pay another 10 to hook it
Do
up.
the stuff.
You're
right?
140
Yep.
for having essentially the same car.
Yeah.
Why would you not do that?
100%.
Yeah.
It's for people who want to use it,
And then you can put all of this cool stuff on
100%.
it.
Exactly. You can outfit it so that it's really proper and
then-
go bully the new 992 3RS. So,
Maybe.
so
It will. It
Roll-
will. No, it actually will.
one of the things, so we've got the next YouTube that we're coming out with.
You can just tell I'm
that.
enamored with that car. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He's a fanboy.
I am
Fine.
super. I've
Big
never
fan.
been. I've never
Super
been a fan.
fanboy.
I've never been a fanboy of a car in my life till that car.
Yeah.
But outside. But you're right. The thing is, with that money, you strip it down, make it lightweight. Do that. It would actually beat it by a long shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got Ted went out and
I might have to do that.
faster than the
Sorry, Marley, I'm telling you right
992
now.
3RS is our GT4RS Lab Rat.
Yeah.
The full 4RS Lab Rat is faster than the 992 3RS by a tenth. Not true. Ted's faster by 2/10 in the 3RS currently than he was at the 4RS. Now, Ted believes that he can get into the 139s in the 4RS.
So, go keep going. No,
Yeah.
keep going.
And we will continue to push this because Seth Thomas, he took his 991.2 3RS Lab Rat to a 128.
okay.
Ted drove our 3RS at Road Atlanta to a 128. Lee Keen drove the 3RS, the 992 3RS to a 127.
And he's
He's like the king of Road Atlanta.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
If there's anyone who
He's
has
setting-
confidence at that racetrack,
you're not
that's
getting-
him.
you're right.
Right? So I can take a car that, according to Nürburgring track times, is 30 seconds a lap slower or whatever the hell they say. I don't follow all of this with any kind of credence because it's all manipulated bullshit by
when you control the
manufacturers.
circuit, it's
Yeah. And the tires and the tire maker, and you can throw your fearless
the weather.
yeah, we need to dial those
Yeah,
in,
that's
guys.
all
In.
that-
I'd
yeah.
love for if they got that going. They're in the wrong biz. Then you can dial in the weather. They got world domination coming.
But they're there. They know when the
Oh,
weather's
yeah.
good, right?
Yeah.
They rent the track.
They just
and
pick the day.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
So,
they don't control the weather.
No, that would be
Yeah.
it'd be really cool, but unlikely. For those of you who don't have a 992 3RS, we can
It's
build
just
you
all
one.
of us that are listening.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally. I mean, they're not going to make enough for the demand,
No.
and they're going to be insanely priced.
Yep.
And Pat's 100% correct. When somebody asked me, since you've had the 3RS, you've driven it in the mountains and you've driven it on the track, what's your opinion of it? It is the best street car Porsche has ever made. If you are a driver,
Yep. 100%.
if you are not a driver, pass.
Yep.
It's all going to be lost on you.
Well,
It'll
here's-
just be a bunch of knobs and a bunch of whiz bang that doesn't buy a turbo.
Here's
Enjoy
the other
it.
thing I'd say on that. If you're not going to take it on the track, don't buy it. Because
100%.
these cars that are good on track are not good on the street because they're so good, they're just kind of numb on the street. And actually,
In the mountains, that car, and Justin will attest to this because we got out of the car and I scared the fuck out of him. You have to go so fucking fast
Yeah.
on the street. It's like
I know.
lose your license.
it is. That's the thing. Those
Level
cars are
fast.
good at. That's why I'm a fan of lower horsepower,
Yeah.
lighter cars
Yeah.
because you can really, ring them out.
Right.
Can I go back though
Yeah,
to
please.
the comparison of the 4RS
Yep.
and the 3RS?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you've driven them both.
Driven that one too.
Yep.
And I again, you know my car. It's that blue original.
Yeah, he's a
OG
Cayman guy.
Lab Rat.
Yep.
As much as I liked the 3RS and was speechless, was almost as much as I didn't like the 4RS.
Stock.
Yes, because and this is actually a compliment to the car, but the car.
I have no compliments for that car stock.
No, but
it's horrible.
But the car is so. The car is so good out of the box. It allows you, but you don't feel it. It's kind of
funny.
numb. Where the 3RS, you feel it right from the beginning.
the thing that
It's
we've been
almost too
hearing
good.
from
It's almost too good.
The 992 3RS is very
I'm,
good.
I'm talking about the 4RS. No, meaning that it's like it's so good that you don't feel like it's fast out of the box, but it's not fun.
So I think where the 4RS excels is where you took it. If you take it to about 60, 70%, car feels magical. When you start pushing it, its fangs show up. And it's literally trying to kill you.
Okay,
And
interesting.
every competent driver we've had take this car on track, they immediately pick up the phone after finding our YouTube video and they're like, I had exactly the same experience. This car is trying to spin when you're just getting it to load hard in a corner. It just needs the smallest amount of perturbation. And it's the
Well,
same
it's
thing
kinda
for
what
all
said.
Caymans.
I didn't like
right?
it
Yeah.
out of the box. The RS, your RS, the
Yeah.
992 GT3 RS,
Yeah.
best car ever.
Well, it's also a 911.
I know, but I like Caymans. But this is coming from
know.
a Cayman guy.
I know.
And the
That's why I'm
Cayman
rubbing
guy-
it in.
I know. And the Cayman guy, I like my Cayman, but that car. Now that I got in your GT4 RS, I was faster in that car than my car. Mm-hmm. But I
Don't
didn't.
worry, you're good.
Splash.
All right.
Thank you. It's just too darn good.
It's very syrupy
That's
and
good.
delicious.
I didn't get out. Okay, here's how I measure things.
Yeah.
If I get out of a car and I can't wait to get back in the car,
Yep.
that's when I know I love the car.
Yeah. This is the first one that I've been challenging Ted about who gets to drive it first.
The 3RS, I literally thought about it the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, how am I going to, what? So where Pat's head went was, what can I sell? What do I don't like as much? How can I generate
And I have things I can
trade
sell, yes.
to move some things around to be able to secure this car? Like,
Yes.
chick, 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 chick. It's the Chinese tile
At
puzzle.
some point.
Right?
At
Click,
some
click,
point.
click, 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 click.
But the 4RS, I got on like, I'll go back to my Toyota.
This is when he showed up in a stock BRZ for a
No, GR86.
Sorry.
Come on, Toyota. Not
Same thing.
Subaru. It is the same thing.
It's the
exactly
same
the
car.
same thing. It is. Which,
for,
by the way, for the record,
yeah.
an absolute blast to drive.
Oh, I bet.
Blast.
Driving slow cars fast is the best.
Bat.
Right?
I was chucking it in. I was going the corners, literally doing this with the wheel, completely throwing the ass out, and then
Right.
catching it all the way through
Nice.
the corner. It was so fun. Yeah.
So we bob and weave through all of this, but at the end of the day, the 3RS is a fantastic car. You don't have to abandon all hope and be woe is me if you only have a GT3 or a GT3 RS or a 992 GT3
Right.
or a 4RS or a 718 GT4 or any other GT
You
car.
can set them up to go as fast.
We can set them up to
Yeah.
go just as fast, to be just as easy to drive fast, and you can extend your ownership experience without going into horrendous debt unnecessarily
Yep.
if you are not in a position under a highly inflationary market, which stagflation has been thrown around and it's kind of feeling almost right.
It kind of feels
right
that
now.
way, yeah. They're not admitting it, but it feels that way to me.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's an election year. A lot of people just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for shit to happen. But construction project like the Circuit of the Northwest,
Is
they
that
are
going through?
they're trying to sell their bonds. What a horrible time to be selling the bonds.
Yeah, it's a bad time.
You're going to have to give somebody a giant multiple on that.
Yeah,
And you're not going to afford it at that point. So
When the government's giving you 5% guaranteed with no risk.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
bad timing.
a lot more than that. So maybe by 2030, we need low interest rates to happen again. But yeah, we'll see. What's on everybody's mind? We went through a couple things.
Welcome to Mr. Derailer.
Yeah,
I completely derailed it.
brother, it's
But
good.
That's
it's good.
actually very fun.
It's typically these guys that'll like
Yeah.
ping and send me. Oh, somebody had a question. How do you have a recommendation of material for making your own splitters and canards? Oh, brother.
Making your own?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Well,
Well, you have them.
I guess it would be for what car?
No, why would you do that?
Well, like, he could have it for a Camaro or for a
That's true.
Mazda or I mean,
Yes, but can I answer that question for you?
Please.
Don't do it. That's stupid.
I would.
Because the
It's
tooling,
expensive.
the tooling cost to do the first ones were all the expenses. After that,
Correct.
they get less. But
Correct.
just find someone who makes it and buy it. Don't do
Yes. Yes. Find the nuance of making something that will put downforce on the front of your car. You can use basic rule of thumb principles to get mostly right. There you go. M2C, I would look up Zebulon, brother.
Sorry, I didn't mean to completely insult anybody.
Yeah, that's
there.
all good. It's
But
all
I'm
good.
just saying it's expensive. That's all I was trying to say.
If you can
someone has it.
CAD, so if you have the capabilities, 3D print them. What am I supposed to do? Go make some more money, son.
Go work.
So you can pay somebody else to do
That's
that.
right.
Seriously though, I'm cut from a similar
Yes,
cloth.
he is.
I like to
That's
do
why
shit
I
myself.
answered it, not you.
Yes,
Because
yes,
the
I like-
reality is, he'll tell you how to do it,
I get
and it
myself
will cost
in
you
trouble.
3 times as
Yes.
much. My role at Dundon was say no.
Yes.
No.
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 No, we're not
Literally,
doing that. That cost
no.
too much money, Jamie. And then he left, and I was like,
I think I need to come back.
I've gotten much better at telling myself
Yes.
no.
I was the no, Jamie.
Well,
no,
now it's
Jamie.
worse because we taught Charles how to CAD,
Oh, it's trouble.
and we gave him a direct line to the machine shop.
Yeah, it's trouble.
So he just writes the POs and
you know what,
sends,
though?
and
It's actually
then
worked
this
out
stuff
pretty
shows
good.
up.
It's worked
Yeah.
out pretty well.
This stuff shows up. So Tyler, the best advice I can give you is if you can CAD the parts yourself, then 3D print them for small things. Larger things like splitters, those get more complex, and it's more complex by how you're going to mount it. The reason that a few years ago we did not continue the partnership we had originally put together is because of speaking frankly, the danger in the way that their parts were mounted. And yeah,
Justin,
you
that's
couldn't do
super.
that.
That is super cool.
You couldn't do that,
That is so cool.
right? So
Wait, is that on the 4RS?
yeah, it's on the 4RS.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's
Is
three
that the
people on the
splitter
front.
I'm getting, by the way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and
That's awesome.
If I was feeling spicy, we'd take the camera out, and except he didn't bring this car.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, I literally just have to put my toe on the splitter
Yeah.
that's on Pat's
I
car.
said I like my splitter, and he sends me a video going, you might want to rethink that. Let
Are
me
you
show
sure?
And he's like,
I barely even put any pressure on. I'm
Yeah.
like, this thing ain't gonna stay on the car very
no,
well.
it's
So
not.
for M2C, look up my buddy Ryan at Zebulon. The parts are legit. They are real race car parts. They are CFD tested. We contracted with Ryan at Zebulon to do all the CFD work and the design work for our parts. We make our parts. Ryan makes his parts. And it is a wonderful cooperation between the two companies. He gets paid on every part we sell as if he had some skin in the game to sell it. I wanted to make sure that he never started to compete with us or feel the need to compete with us. So that's part of our arrangement. And that goes for the lifetime of What's the Doing? Zebulon MSCs. Can you type that in there for me, Justin?
By the way, shout out to Justin. You're doing a great. This is the first.
Yeah, his producing is
He's
legit,
killing
right?
it. Yeah. It's like I'm
great.
thinking like, I want to hire him
He's our
too.
he's our Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, he really he does do everything. He welds. I mean, that's
Yeah.
You're,
He's
Justin,
he's our man about town.
You're killing it.
Perfect. So
But anyway,
tell Ryan if you want to actually Tyler, go on. You're already on our YouTube. Go to our Aerodynamics 101. That will help you. That's me and Ryan riffing for over an hour, talking about basics of aerodynamics, what works, what doesn't, why we do something, how does something work, why does something work, that kind of shit. And Ryan's great. He's a Carrera Cup engineer. His team wins consistently. Carrera Cup is a spec series, so he's got some witchy woo-woo and voodoo magic that he's able to. He takes that chicken blood and he throws it on the car, and the car goes fast, and that he's your guy. Yeah, that one, perfect.
Yeah, he's killing it over there.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep, he's quick with it too.
I know.
Except even with the ad for the Rotella.
Not only is he quick with it, he's ahead of us.
Yeah.
Like he's throwing
He's
things
seeing
down,
where it's coming, right?
Anyway,
Yeah,
great
yeah,
job, Justin. So fun.
Will you guys have a booth for Avance Fest? Probably not. Probably not. Jack, I wish.
It's not
I
really the
wish.
market, is it?
Not really. I mean, I remember talking
I'm the guy here keeping it real.
yeah, and I remember talking to the Avance guys early on. I like
Great
Christy.
group, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. They have created. I remember asking the question, what's the founder's guy's name? With Adam. Adam. I remember talking to Adam when he was first starting this, and I was like, so hold on a second. you're going to make a car club and ask vendors for discounts because you made a car club.
I remember that.
How does that help
I
me?
was there, yes.
You know, and
That's exactly what you said.
yeah, I mean, literally, I was just kind of very blunt about it. And now they're in Seattle and they're huge. They're in LA and they're huge. They're in Colorado and they're huge. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Great club.
oh, I didn't get it.
Yep.
Engineer, not a marketer. Adam's a marketer.
You know what, though?
He's been in marketing his whole life.
But as many guys, I mean, how many guys have come to us, I'll say us,
Yeah.
and said that and didn't happen?
Yeah, it was
But
just nothing.
He did it.
Yeah, he did it.
So
he did it.
it's the real
Absolutely.
deal.
Yeah.
But you don't know that when it's starting out.
When it's little.
You don't know until-
Absolutely.
so-
And for what
So he's
for
done
what
a great
Dundon
job.
does, when we were a service company, that makes sense. Local guys saying, "Oh, I have this kind of car, I go here," and for Jacob and for Spec German, that works great.
Yep.
For us, honestly, it hasn't been until I'd say probably the last 3 years that cars that were at the track, more of them had Dundon parts than didn't. At least within kind of our local. You remember you and I talking about this.
Yeah.
We were like the only ones there that had Dundon parts, and we were always kind of floored by that.
I know.
You know, we'd sell them to Oman and Dubai
Yeah, I mean,
and Russia
all over the
and
world,
China,
and we'd be the only one. Yeah, exactly.
and there was nobody here locally that had our shit.
Now, having said this, it's funny because I told Jamie maybe a month ago, I said, I follow there's certain things on Bring a Trailer I follow pretty carefully. So I get a
got
ping
that
every
text.
time
That
it
was
comes
pretty
up.
funny.
And, you know, it's amazing that almost, man, I don't know what percentage.
high
but
percentage.
High percentage
Yeah.
of the cars, the 991.1 and 991, well, not
991.2 Tourings. are what you mean.
Tourings.
Yeah.
And the non-Tourings.
Yep.
They're all like with Denon Motorsports exhaust. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
I mean,
it's fun
the
to see.
percentage, like, I haven't seen that about any other exhaust company.
Especially them preferentially saying it.
Yes, it's like, hey,
Right.
you've got this also.
Right.
I'm going to say 40% of the cars that I watched over a period of time on Bring a Trailer on the GT3s, whether it be touring or non-touring, said, oh, and it has a Dunn exhaust. I didn't see another exhaust ever mentioned.
Right.
Not once. I mean, that's kudos.
That's good.
That's great.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's working. How about that?
Yeah.
It's working.
Because it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. He found the right one. Yeah, I thought Ryan already had an M2C kit.
Hey, Tyler,
don't overlook his wing.
Tyler, I just saved you like 20 grand by
Easily.
dissing you there.
Easily, because
Yeah.
a plywood or a foam mold on a big router and all that bit, and then
Yeah.
trying to figure out the carbon, that's a pain
You
in the
can
ass.
thank me later.
That's a pain in the ass. All right, anybody got anything
All
for
right.
closing? It's about time for me to go get hamburgers at Anthony's.
Hamburgers at Anthony's.
Yeah, it's been a Friday thing for a minute. Carnivore, it's our splurge
but
for Friday night.
Are they good for hamburgers?
Yeah, they're really good. Their burgers are really good.
Have you
It's
got-
a
about-
mixture.
What about the Tides hamburgers?
I've never had a burger at
Are
the
you
Tides.
kidding me?
Never had a burger at the Tides.
Tides is like the epic restaurant here.
Well, they have a good marketing department, but every time I've been in there, it's been okay.
Well, you should have never had a Tides hamburger.
I may have, but I stopped
It's
going
good.
a long time ago. I will give them another
Yes,
shot.
give the Tides
I'll give
a
them
shot.
another shot.
Okay.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Anything else? All right. Cheers, folks. Good night. Thank you, Pat, for joining us.
Thanks for that.